guys, and welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you have been here before. So today we are doing my February TBR, and before I get into the books that I'm planning on reading in February, I want to kind of acknowledge a couple of things. So number one, I'm acknowledging the fact that I haven't posted in like 2 weeks, and it's mostly just because I've been stressed out. I've been kind of a frazzled mess. I've started a couple of vlogs, but they just didn't end up giving what I thought they were gonna give, and so I just scrapped them, and yeah, so now here we are, I'm back. So that's number one. And number two, I want to acknowledge the fact that I do not have Oathbringer on my TBR for this month, and no, I did not finish it yet. So I know that I was trying to get through the Stormlight Archives as soon as possible, and I know that I had put Oathbringer, I believe Oathbringer was on my December TBR and my January TBR. I did read a little bit of Oathbringer, but I have kind of come to the conclusion that I'm not in the mood for high fantasy right now. I have been really gravitating towards and devouring romance, dark romance, and I'm also feeling like I really want to read some fantasy romance as well. So I decided to adapt my February TBR to what my mood is. I have found that in the past I have kind of forced myself to read books that I was not necessarily in the mood for because I had certain goals that I wanted to meet, or I was excited about the idea of finishing said books in X amount of time or whatever, but I'm starting to understand that that is counterproductive, and all that ends up doing is burning me out and making me go into reading slumps. And in 2025, we're trying to treat ourselves with kindness. We are trying to do the things that we enjoy, and if we're not enjoying something, even if it's something that we've liked in the past or we know that we like deep down inside, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna put it on the back burner and wait until we're in the mood for it. So that is what's happening with the Stormlight Archives. So now that I've acknowledged that, let's get into the books that I'm going to read for February. So the first 3 books that are on my TBR for February are books that I am not like married to. I am okay if I don't finish these books in February. I'm okay if I don't even start these books in February. They are just books that I would love to finish at some point in time. But again, we're not pressuring ourselves to do stuff. Because I may or may not end up being in the mood for these. So the first 2 books are Empire of Storm, Tower of Dawn. I have been technically like reading this series, the Throne of Glass series, for like 5 or 6 years, not consecutively. I have read some books, taken a year break, read some more books, taken another year break. And I really want to finish this tandem read. I'm just having a little bit of trouble. So I'm really enjoying Empire of Storms. I'm loving the character interactions that we're getting. Certain characters that have never interacted with each other have met, and certain relationships are building up. Like, I'm really enjoying Empire of Storms. However, I'm struggling with Tower of Dawn. So, and it's for a surprising reason. So Tower of Dawn, as most of you probably know, is mainly about Chaol Westfall, or it mainly follows him. It's not necessarily about him. And I am not a fan of Chaol. I am an official Chaol hater. I know that there are a lot of Chaol apologists who are like, oh, he's changed. He's redeemed himself. He feels guilty for his previous actions. I understand that. I accept the apology, but I'm not even holding a grudge, but I just cannot fully, I cannot fully accept him after him being so petty. The problem is that he was so petty and bitter for so many books, and he was genuinely just an a-hole for several books, that it is hard for me to, because he did some right things, completely just say, oh yeah, you're cool now. It's like, okay, I accept your apology, but we're never gonna be the same. And honestly, I didn't even really like you in the first place. I always liked Dorian better. So anyway, so yeah, I'm struggling with Tower of Dawn, not actually because of Chaol. I'm actually liking Chaol's storyline in this book. I find it very interesting and intriguing, and there's a lot of mystery to it. The thing that I'm not loving is Nesrin's parts. I feel like Nesrin's parts kind of came too far into the book, because I will not lie, the first probably like 10% of this book, I really struggled with it, because I felt like we were kind of put into a completely new world, had to learn a whole bunch of different new characters, new names for things, all that stuff. And then when I finally got comfortable, Nesrin has this other plot that I feel like we're starting from scratch again. I feel like I wish that there was slightly more development of her plot towards the beginning of this book, when I was struggling a little bit more and before the plot had picked up its pace. Because now every time we go to Nesrin, I feel like the plot kind of comes to a screeching halt. So my cheat code for getting through this tandem read is that when February 1st rolls around, today is January 27th. Oh, this book is backwards and upside down. When February 1st rolls around, I'm going to, and I get my new Audible credit, I'm going to spend that Audible credit on the audiobook for Tower of Dawn, and hopefully that will help me get through the tandem read. So these are the first two books that I would love to make it to reading in February. So that third book that I was talking about, that I was like, oh, if I get to it, I get to it. If not, it's fine. That is, what is this called? The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King. Now, I don't remember what star rating I gave the first book in this series. The first book is The Serpent and the Wings of Night. I remember when I initially read this book, I was kind of lying to myself and being like, yeah, no, I liked it. Like, yeah, no, I liked it. It was good. I was doing that thing where I was like, everybody loves this book so much, but I have a lot of problems with it. And then as time went on, I acknowledged the fact that I actually had quite a few problems with The Serpent and the Wings of Night. The problems that I did have with The Serpent and the Wings of Night are that I felt like the outside world was non-existent until it needed to exist, if that makes sense. So in that book, there are trials. These people, or vampires, are sequestered in this like mansion, right? And they're, like I said, they're sequestered, so they don't really have contact with the outside world. They can go out during like the day, I guess, or during certain times of the day to interact with the public. But I felt like Carissa Broadbent should have done one of two things. She either should have made it to where they're literally sequestered, like they don't know anything that's going on in the outside world. And so when these like events happen with very little context as to how they happened or why they happened or the build up to them happening, it makes more sense that they're coming out of nowhere, because we are completely ignorant to the fact of what's going on in the outside world, and the contestants are completely ignorant to the facts of what's going on in the outside world, because they have no communication with the outside world. Even still, I feel like I would still have problems with it, because before they were ever sequestered, there was very little world building and very little political building. This book, The Serpent and the Wings of Night, has a lot of political intrigue that is not political intrigue. We're just being told things, but we're not seeing the wheels turning. Like that's the best part, is like seeing that people are making certain decisions. You don't know who to trust. You're trying to prevent something from happening, and beknownst to you, there were things that were still happening that caused this major event. So I wish that she would have either done where they were actually sequestered, had no contact with the outside world, and at the beginning of the book, we kind of got more of an understanding of how the world works, where the politics are aligned, and who's who, and all that stuff. Or I would have preferred it if she made it to where they were sequestered, but they had more interactions with the outside world, and we were able to see more of the politics happening. Because I found that everything seemed to happen for the plot and not necessarily things happening as consequences to actions of characters. But I want to give The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King a try, because this does not take place inside of that competition. And I also, the way that the first book ended, I was a little bit intrigued to see where this series would go. I don't know actually if this is a duology or if this is a series, but I'm curious. And I also, The thing that I loved most about reading Serpent and the Wings of Night is the actual book. I have the self-published version before it's traditionally published, and these books are so floppy, and the pages are like nice and thick, and I really like this copy of the book. So I also want to read it because I like the way the book feels. But this is the third book that I'm kind of like, oh, if I read it, I read it. If I don't, I don't. So now let's get into the books that I really, really want to read. So, first book I really, really want to read is Caraval by Stephanie Garber. And I've heard so many people read or talk about this series. This series has actually been around for a long time, and I was resistant to read it years ago because I've never really been into like the fairy tale sort of retelling stories. If I am remembering correctly, I think that Stephanie Garber is the same author who wrote like Cinder and Tress and those books where they were like cyborgs or something, and it was fantasy, and I really did not like those books, but those are sci-fi and I'm not really into sci-fi. So because of those books, I kind of never gave if I'm thinking that she's the correct author, I never gave her a chance, but I really, really want to read the Once Upon a Broken Heart series. I've heard really, really good things about that as well. And in order to read that, I don't have to, according to people, I don't have to read the Caraval series, but it's highly recommended. So I'm gonna do so there's not really a synopsis on the back, but from my memory of what it's about, it's basically, I think that this girl's family is down bad and her dad is like in a bad predicament, and her sister joins Caraval because you get something, I don't know if you win money or what, you get something if you win the competition, and the main character goes in there to try to save her sister because I guess Caraval is very dangerous, and I really don't know what it's about. So that's this book. And then the other book that I want to read is very similar to Caraval, and that is Phantasma by Kylie Smith. So this book is about a girl whose mother passes away. She inherits her family's magic and she inherits her family's debt. And her little sister decides that she's going to go to Phantasma, which is a cursed manor, and she's going to try to pay off the loan by entering the competition because the victor gets granted a single wish. So this character goes to Phantasma to try to save her sister, and while there, she meets some mysterious man and falls in love. And I had this book in my December haul video, and I said, this sounds like a steamy, spicy version of Caraval. And somebody said, well, yes, it is. So I'm curious. Then I've got The Spanish Love Deception by Elena Armas. And this book I have seen people talk about probably years ago, but this book has been living in and out of my Amazon cart for years. And I went to Books A Million last week and just browsed around. I love looking at their bargain section. A lot of times they don't have anything that I'm interested in, but sometimes they will have some books that I've heard before. And I saw this and I snatched it because it was only $5.97. It was actually $5 because I have a Books A Million membership. But this book is about a woman who desperately needs a date for her wedding for her sister's wedding, because she lied and told her family that she has an American boyfriend, and now everyone she knows, including her ex-boyfriend and his fiance, are expecting for her to show up to this wedding with her American boyfriend, but she doesn't have one. So she only has 4 weeks to find someone to come over to Spain for this wedding, and it seems like the only person who is willing to help her out is her coworker, who she doesn't really like that much. So it seems like a hate to love romance, forced proximity romance, and it seems really, really cute. Oh, fake dating as well. It seems really cute, and it's February. You need a little bit of love. So Spanish Love Deception is definitely a book that I'm excited to read. Next is Crescent City, House of Sky and Breath. This this might also be in the realm of books that I may or may not get to, but I like the idea of me getting to this. And I say that because I really want to continue the story, but these books are so long, like 800 pages long. So I'm going to count this as another book that if I get to it, I get to it. If I don't, I don't. I'm not going to be super upset about it. But I would love to continue Bryce's story and Hunt's story. And I can't remember the brother's name, but the brother's story. So this is also an option. Now, the last couple of books live on my Kindle. And so let me get into those books that are on my Kindle that I want to get into. So the first book that is on Kindle Unlimited that I'm interested in reading is Loving the Liar by Lola King. And this book is, I believe, a dark romance. And it is about a girl who comes from a very, very wealthy family. She's going to this university. She's the queen bee at this university. But unfortunately, her family lost its fortune due to some like secret society, I guess. And because of this, she has to try to infiltrate the secret society. And it's like a spicy secret society. And while joining it, her ex-boyfriend is somehow involved with it, and he is there to protect her, even though they had a very, very contentious breakup, and she doesn't really want him to protect her. And I'm assuming that it's a romance between those two, so I'm interested in reading that book on Kindle Unlimited. There is also another book that I cannot find. Okay, here it is. And then I also would like to try to read Twisted Lies by Anna Huang. So I have read Twisted Games by Anna Huang, loved that book. It was super duper good. Liked the characters a lot, and it had a really good plot. I then tried to read, so that was the second book in the Twisted series by her. I then tried to read Twisted Love, which was the first book in the series, and I really was not a fan of that. I did not like the main female character. I thought she was pretty boring. I thought that the romance was pretty mid. I didn't really like the male main character. So I didn't love it. So I DNF'd that one. Then I tried to read Twisted Hate. Didn't like that one either because I didn't like the female main character in that book. The male main character was whatever, but I really didn't like the female main character in that one. So DNF'd that one. And then Twisted Lies came up, and I was like, oh, but you know what? I know for a fact I like the male main character of this book because he appeared in Twisted Games. And the female main character in this book is not annoying like the other two. So those are all the books that I would hope to read in February. So let me know if any of these books sound interesting to you. What books do you have in your February TBR? And do you have any advice on whether or not I'll like the Star-Cursed King? What is this called? The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King. Why does Carissa make her title so long? Jeez. So yeah, have a great day, guys. And remember, don't sweat the small stuff. Bye.